Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. I am Pasta Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella.
And Jonny Sue is there this early morning spinning on the ones and twos. Well, I shouldn't say it's this early. It's the crack of noon around here, fam.
It's early for you.
I had a great night last night. I had some beautiful chicken that I made. I watched Nacho Libre for the fourth time. And
such a stupid movie.
It was fantastic.
It's you are Nacho Libre. What is this?
When Johnny had to watch it, he just saw clips of it. So the other day we watched the whole movie. What a great fun time it was. It's pretty funny. So let's get to business, fam. There's some breaking news. Let's tell us about my girl. Go ahead.
Okay, well, yesterday Tulsi decided to serve Hillary Clinton with a defamation lawsuit. And we knew that she was going to act on this because when Tulsi says she's going to do this, unless you retract your statements, you should listen to her. So Representative Tulsi Gabbard officially decided to tell Hillary Clinton that she can't smear her or anybody else anymore. And we're going to talk about why this is such a big deal and why it's not anything that is a waste of time. There are people out there saying this is like distraction, et cetera, but I honestly don't think it is. I think it's really important. And let's look at her statement right now. She filed a statement for immediate release, and then they talk about how her filing this, and then it says Clinton was a 2016 Democratic Party nominee for President of the United States Secretary of State from 2009 until 2013, a senator, and blah, 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 First Lady. On October 17, 2009, she publicly stated in an interview that somebody who is currently in the Democratic Party primary is a favorite of the Russians. Yeah, she's a Russian asset. The press extensively republished and decimated these statements, which were interpreted widely as Clinton asserting that Gabbard is a Russian asset. And if we recall, her spokesperson also confirmed that this was about Tulsi.
Yeah. Can I say something real quick? And it's not just that Hillary Clinton said it. It's all the media behind her, the Clinton News Network. That's what makes this case even more, I think, juicy or more legit, is the fact that it wasn't just Hillary Clinton slandering her. It was everybody else, like the Picari sellers on CNN. It was a group effort. It was a concerted effort together to go after Tulsi Gabbard.
And she says the complaint seeks compensatory damages and an injunction on prohibiting the further publication of Clinton's defamatory statements. And so you guys can see, I believe I put the pictures here. You guys can see the text here. It says
the lawsuit itself right here, the actual.
Yeah. So this is a statement, and it's important to read this because she brings back everything.
Yeah.
So she says the president of the United States, a position Clinton has long coveted but has not been able to attain. And then she talks about what Clinton said. Clinton lied about her perceived rival, Tulsi Gabbard. She did so publicly, unambiguously, and with the obvious malicious intent. Tulsi has been harmed by Clinton's lies, and American democracy has suffered as well. Tulsi seeks to hold Clinton and political elites who enable her accountable for distorting the truth in the middle of a critical presidential election. Because if we recall, Tulsi was actually surging in the polls up until this situation happened and Clinton decimated all these smears, and then she kind of froze, and a lot of people started believing.
I don't care if she kept rising on the polls. She still should face some charges and stuff. And I love the way this thing is written out. It's just like everything short of emojis. It's like slandering her and then getting back. President Clinton wanted to attain this position that she couldn't. It just wish it had like emojis in there as well. So
no, yeah, I mean, and then
she lists everything in this thing.
Yeah, so
the nature
Tulsi
of the case.
believed the best Democratic presidential candidate for our country was Senator Bernie Sanders. And then she goes back to talking about 2016. She also knew that Clinton had a stranglehold over the Democratic Party and that crossing Clinton, who considered herself the inevitable nominee, could mean the end of her own political career. Yet Tulsi put the country before herself, and she publicly endorsed Bernie Sanders, becoming the most prominent politician to do so at the time. And then in October 2019, she sought a retribution. Hillary Clinton sought retribution by lying publicly, loudly about Tulsi Gabbard. She said, and then this just repeats her about her being a Russian asset. And she's calling Clinton a conspiracy theorist. Clinton had no basis for making the false assertions about Tulsi. And indeed, there is no factual basis for Clinton's conspiracy theory. So, and then
where have we gone? The fact that we are now at the point where we can just smear somebody as a Russian asset.
Exactly.
It's like
Well,
freaking
not just-
McCarthyism on steroids right now.
It's not just somebody. It's a person that is a current army, serving in the army, in the armed forces, is a current sitting congresswoman with zero proof, by the way.
Yeah.
You're just saying it as fact. Tulsi did advise Clinton. Before bringing this lawsuit, Tulsi wrote to Clinton and advised her of the complete and total falsity of the defamatory statements. Tulsi also asked Clinton to retract the statements. She continues to stand by them. She refused to apologize. So basically, this is why she went after her. So
is it legit, fam?
It is. I think
is
it's
it too legit to quit?
It's absolutely legit. And I think, a lot of the people, her point is a lot of the people who read these statements read them as fact, who took them for fact for who Hillary Clinton is and all the believability she has. People took them as fact, so it did damage her campaign. But let's talk about what Tulsi said, because Tulsi basically talked about this in a couple of videos. She talked about it in one video, and then she spoke about it in another video. So
let's talk too for a second about what's really come to life with this whole situation, because after everything that's folded in the last several days, you've been saying that you see a lot more people realizing that the Congresswoman is an ally, and it wasn't Elizabeth Warren the whole time. I think you said it, fam. It was Tulsi. We've been sitting here on this couch screaming that, and a lot of people are saying that this here right here is just for her to gain clout in the whole situation with this character. What do you say to that? The fact that I think one of the biggest things that she's done was suing Google for $50 million.
Yeah.
This is another thing, and I think it should be more. I think she should sue Google for $100 million and Hillary Clinton for $1 billion or something, because I know Hillary Clinton's worth so much money.
But
you know what I mean? But what is $50 million going to do for Hillary Clinton? It's going to be nothing.
So the people saying that she's doing this for attention are just basically haters. You're just a hater. It doesn't matter if Tulsi makes bread out of nothing, because you're gonna hate her. They hate because they see her as either a threat in one way or another, or because they feel like she's doing what nobody's doing. Everybody loves to criticize Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
Everybody loves to say, oh, Hillary Clinton, look what she did to Bernie. Look what she did now. But nobody has the audacity and the cojones and the balls of steel to go after her like Tulsi Gabbard is. And the whole point of her going after it, which she's going to explain to you guys, is that if Hillary Clinton can do this to her, who is a sitting congresswoman and an army veteran with a lot of she has fame, she has a platform, she can do this to anybody.
Absolutely.
And it's absolutely the principle of her being able to do that, that she's standing on.
Well, number one, I just want to say it off the bat that I love it when a Latin woman uses the word cojones, because that's great. But number two, why don't the Bernie Sanders people realize at this point, because one of the major criticisms of Bernie Sanders is that he's too weak. He doesn't fight back, right? I heard Anya Parampil almost kind of comparing to what Bernie's doing now with the whole thing we talked about the other day with the Biden thing, with the apology from Zephyr Teachout, is what was being done with Jeremy Corbyn in England. And that's why he lost the friggin' race, is because he looked weak and didn't punch back. In this particular situation, Bernie doesn't have to punch back. He doesn't have to put himself in danger from that one group of people who will say, you can't attack a woman, you can't attack a person of color. Yeah. Here comes Tulsi. How do they not see her, fam, at this point as an ally?
I think the majority of people do, though, at this point, based on what she has done thus far defending Bernie, while Elizabeth has been stabbing. She's been kind of the one pretty much protecting him and standing up for him. The only person, by the way, some of his surrogates haven't even said a word. I don't know if they're afraid of, looking bad to people like Elizabeth Warren, but I believe it should be a no-brainer if you're a Bernie surrogate to stand against what Warren has done. And I applaud those surrogates that have, like Sean King has stood up for Bernie on multiple fronts. And but I don't see any other presidential candidate except Tom Steyer. Tom Steyer's more so doing this for Bernie, look at me. It feels a little bit, and he's likable. He's a likable guy.
Yeah.
But he took a lot of money from Center for American Progress. By the way, I found out.
He did?
Yeah. Anyway, so let's just hear the reasons why Tulsi Gabbard is suing Hillary. There's a couple of clips.
Hey, look, I'm a patriot. I love our country. I've put my life on the line for our country. I've been serving as a soldier now for almost 17 years and still wear the uniform for my National Guard service. As a member of Congress, I have taken an oath to our nation, serving now for 7 going on 8 years, serving on the Foreign Affairs Committee, on the Armed Services Committee, the Homeland Security Committee, and having access to some of the highest classified information, helping to make decisions about our country's national security interests. And look, I will not stand quietly by as Hillary Clinton or anyone else tries to smear my character and my loyalty and dedication to serving our country. And I've filed a lawsuit against her for that defamation to hold her accountable.
So here she basically just says, look, I filed a lawsuit. I'm not going to stand by this. I want her to be held accountable. Period. I mean, that's, that's the basic gist of it.
It didn't get a roaring applause, though. Do you think people are having a hard time understanding this? Do you think Tulsi fans are kind of on the fence with some of this?
No, not
I mean,
at
I'm all about it.
No.
But
they love it.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Because you know how we like the Google thing. When she was suing Google, I was doing cartwheels. I was cursing at the air at Google. So I love that move. And I like this move, too, as well. Because she's taking on the whole establishment. So we have another video, you said, right?
Yes. This video more further explains why it's important that she's doing that.
I love our country. It's why I made the decision to enlist in the Army National Guard after the attack on our country on 9/11. I've served as a soldier now for 17 years and put my life on the line for our country, volunteering to deploy twice to the Middle East. I've served in Congress for over 7 years on the Foreign Affairs, Armed Services, and Homeland Security committees. I've dedicated my entire adult life to protecting the safety, security, and freedom of the American people. Now, despite my lifetime of service to our country, Hillary Clinton has essentially tried to portray me as a traitor to our country. If Hillary Clinton and her allies can successfully destroy my reputation, even though I'm a war veteran and a sitting member of Congress, then they can do it to anyone. In fact, that's exactly the message Hillary and her powerful elite friends want to send to you. Hillary Clinton and her allies want you to know that if you dare to cross them, they will destroy your reputation as well. I will not allow this blatant effort to intimidate me or other patriotic Americans into silence go unchallenged. This is why I filed a lawsuit against Hillary Clinton. I ask all of you to stand with me, working side by side to ensure that we have a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Together, we will usher in a new era of fresh leadership with peace, freedom, and opportunity for all.
Okay, one thing we have to point out is Hillary Clinton didn't just smear her. She said she was a foreign asset. She said that a person that's a veteran that's currently serving in the Army National Guard is a Russian asset. It's offensive to her personally, obviously.
Well, not only that, they use that in the Defense Department, they use that as a term, it's a term.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
No
Russian
doubt.
asset is a term.
Since the Cold War, and that was the biggest thing, dude. Let me tell you something. There was a guy when I went to the Navy, him and his son, they were charged and they're serving jail time for life, and they were labeled as Russian assets. They had gambling problems, so what the Russians did was the KGB contacted them, gave them money for secrets. They were labeled as Russian assets. We were taught as Russian assets. You know what I'm saying? Now, I don't think that those two particular words together really mean as much as they used to, because it's 2020 and people still want to play G.I. Joe. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it is a harsh, serious smear. And like I said, she didn't just do it by herself. She did it with the power of mainstream media behind her. And they got their message out to the everyday average people who don't who don't pay attention to politics, who are not in our echo chamber, and they really did tarnish her name in a very negative and liable way. They should be held liable.
And she made sure to mention that it's not just Hillary Clinton, it's her elites, the elites. She's directly going after the establishment, folks. Yeah. Like, she's literally going after the Democratic establishment in a way that nobody has outed them. I mean, she was the first one to call out the DNC, call Hillary Clinton the queen of warmongers, do all of these things. We need somebody out there who's doing that. Sure, Bernie doesn't have to do it, but somebody does. Yeah. And I think it's more powerful that it's not just coming from us here at the bottom, like, raging against the machine. That's always going to be necessary, but it's always nice to have allies that actually have more of a platform to be able to say these things, especially somebody that's a sitting congresswoman to say it. It is so much more important than people are giving it credit for. And I think it's really frustrating to see people that are saying, like, Emma, let's talk about what Emma said.
The low-hanging fruit of the media.
This is just disgusting. I mean, she got pretty much like pummeled for this, but she said Clinton's accusations were moronic, but she didn't mention Gabbard by name. Might be a problem for Gabbard's case. What a stupid lawsuit. An embarrassing attention grab.
And then the neo-progressives keep on that last part, fam. They keep on repeating that. This is just for attention.
It's distracting us from impeachment. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Because impeachment isn't an entire distraction away from the issues that we should be talking about, that Americans are facing. Do you think a fucking woman that can't pay her rent cares about impeachment? No, they don't give a fuck. The American people don't care. And so when people like Emma are saying, oh, this is all to get a distraction no, somebody has to take on Hillary Clinton and the establishment. And that is just the worst take I have ever seen. Emma's hatred for Tulsi goes beyond the rational. It's just illogical, makes zero sense. People who don't even like Tulsi were like, "Oh, I'm glad she's doing this." Yeah. Be fair. Be a journalist.
Well, she's not fair.
Be a journalist.
She's in the corner of Elizabeth Warren. Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on. All the behavior. Oh, I wish they would just apologize, fam.
They didn't
They
only had a disagreement.
So
Elizabeth didn't do anything wrong. She's just mistaken.
This is all just blown up by the media.
Can you imagine if Tulsi did what Elizabeth Warren did to Bernie?
Forget about it. Forget about it. Tulsi's on a different standard right now. The way Bernie Sanders was on that crazy. And first of all, Bernie's on a crazy standard as is. He's got to watch his step. That's why it's so good for Tulsi just paving the way and going after all these people. Remember, we got California coming up, and everybody was talking about, oh, Kamala Harris was going to win California. The establishment was backing Kamala Harris, and they were. Gavin Newsom, Barbara Boxer.
Barbara Lee.
Not Barbara Lee. Yeah. Barbara Boxer. She's an old. Barbara Lee, all these people and whatnot. Who knocked her out with one punch? You don't even have to worry about Kamala Harris anymore, because why? Tulsi Gabbard did it. Bernie Sanders didn't have to say one thing to Kamala Harris, and that's important because a lot of people in his base, if he had gone after her, would have been, oh my God.
He is OMG. Such a sexist, racist. And imagine with Elizabeth Warren and
you shouldn't attack Native
Kamala
Americans,
Harris.
So.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes. You're right.
You don't do that to Elizabeth. Sorry.
But it's just ridiculous. Like, at this point, anybody supporting Elizabeth Warren over Tulsi Gabbard is a freaking it's ignorant. You're ignorant. You are literally supporting somebody that's backstabbed Bernie time and time again.
Yes.
For what measures? You have nothing to back it up. You want to talk about the CFPB? That was a front. It barely did anything for the families that were experiencing the debt and were experiencing their homes being taken away from them. It literally was a front. A lot of people who are very hardcore occupiers never felt like Elizabeth Warren did anything on that. So that's what she has to stand on.
Yeah.
That. Yeah. And really, I mean, she can talk against Republicans all day and criticize Republicans. Sure. Give her a Treasury seat. But as far as trusting her integrity, as far as the idea that Tina pointed out last time, Elizabeth Warren, if it were anybody else, she would have been outed as a racist, because people have the audacity to say Tulsi is racist and an Islamophobe based on what? There is absolutely no evidence. But Elizabeth Warren went and literally co-opted the Native American heritage, put her name down as a Native American, made cookbooks, profited off of it, And then she has the audacity to say, people have the audacity to say, oh yeah, she's wonderful, she's such a progressive. No, I'm like,
did
so
she show
done
up at
with
Standing
that.
Rock?
No,
neither man.
Jesus Christ.
Let me say, Politico says that Tulsi has LGBT issues, but that's for so long ago. They keep on recycling these things, and I'm really eager to get to our debate, what we talk the important issues are and whatnot, because not the fact that I want to prove who's right and what's wrong, because I think they're all important, but the issues that are important to me are important to a lot of people on the center right. Some of them. And that's the way we grab those votes and win this election. I'm really sick and tired of people thinking that Elizabeth Warren can help Bernie Sanders' chances in the general election. It will not. It will not. She will not get any additional voters. She will not poach any voters away from the center and from Donald Trump. And Bernie Sanders has a big chance of losing if he takes Elizabeth Warren as his vice president. That's just my personal opinion.
No, I agree with you.
What's that?
I agree with you.
Tulsi goes and gets this other, they're not in our camp. They're not progressives. They don't take a Green New Deal as serious as us. They don't take Medicare for All as serious as us. I get it. That doesn't mean we demonize them. We find out where we have common ground and we bring it together to beat Donald Trump because he is vulnerable with those bases. The libertarians right now are pissed at Donald Trump because he's not the non-interventionist he said he would be.
The problem is the Democrats are running a campaign to win more Democrats and centrist votes than they are to win the general.
That's the primary, right?
Right.
We have a chance for pivoting.
But if you pivot, you're seen as disingenuous. Like, you can't pivot that hard. Like, you can't push
There's
away
always
people.
seems to be a pivot.
You can't push people away, though.
Yeah.
You got to do it the right way. And so
I hear you. And we strategically wise, if she's the vice president or if she's in the cabinet, she's not going to get her issues front and center. But she can say, I will push Bernie on these issues to bring it together. First of all, we're not even talking about Bernie protecting civil liberties because he has one of the best internet integrity bills out there. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's a big part. He wants to have an open and free internet everywhere. And I don't think a lot of and I tell my Bernie friends, hey man, you got to mention this. This is civil liberties here. Libertarians care about this. Push this notion right here. There are those areas where she can advise and it will be a slight pivot. Not get away from the things that are important to the progressives, but just kind of.
I don't think you have to placate though to either the centrists or the Republicans.
It's not placating. It's pulling in issues that are important to everybody. You know what I'm saying? And I think that a lot of progressives don't realize how important our civil liberties are sometimes.
Well, they're
really concentrated on which I understand.
Because you're not going to get people.
But you understand the importance of them, so therefore you have a good balance. A lot of people don't.
But you have to look at it as people aren't going to pay attention to that. Same with foreign policy. Well, while you can't separate it, people aren't going to think like that when they can't afford things. Yeah. It's an immediate concern to them.
Absolutely.
And so they're not gonna think that far. It's like people right now are in survival mode, so they're not gonna think about that. So you can't make it seem like you're gonna forget those issues.
I know, but when you control the rhetoric, you have people, and that's the most common problem, fam. People who put a lot of these Republicans, especially in the White House, in office, they vote against their own financial interests.
Yeah.
They really do. So that's what the civil liberties do. When you can distort a conversation and put your conversation for it, you know what I'm saying? You're going to use fear tactics to say you have to vote against that person. These person are trying to take away your liberty. They're trying to turn us into a socialist country and make us all Stalinish. So there's a lot of work to be done, but I'm looking forward to our debate and stuff.
Yeah,
and
we obviously need to have a debate on this because we don't
it's
agree.
all important. Because it is. So let's talk about the latest poll numbers that show Bernie Sanders with a national surge over malarkey Joe Biden and leading among non-whites.
Yeah, so Bernie Sanders is obviously surging in the polls. It's a CNN poll, which is it's just a miracle. And he's surging nationally. He's grown 7 points, and he is 3% above Biden. He is a hefty amount above Warren, Buttigieg, and everybody else. Now, this is important because in the breakdown, if you look, and I gave you the link to the whole breakdown thing, but the majority of people support Sanders, sure. Under the category of white, 24% support him and 22% Biden. Okay,
why is
that's 2%
this important?
More. It's important because in the category of non-white, Sanders has 30%. And this is important because for the longest time, Sanders has been painted as the candidate that only has white men supporting him. And time again, the media loves to talk about that. And it's completely false. I mean, they can't even pretend it's true now. The majority of his supporters are not only non-white, they're women. And, I'm not an identity politics driven person, but it is very important to note that when you are being attacked unfairly for having a very white campaign, and then when you get attacked for pointing out the fact that Elizabeth Warren's campaign was full of elitist white people, because it was. Why do you think Elizabeth Warren got away with so much crap? Because these faux, latte feminists who are completely excluding people of color and working class women, they don't care about working class issues. They just care about you putting on your pink pussy hat and marching there with your sign that says, a nasty woman or whatever the hell it says. And so we need to get away from that idea that that's feminism.
Yeah.
Because it damages actual issues that women face. And I'm going to bring this around again, because the idea that, Bernie doesn't care about social issues, or that you're not focused enough on issues of the LGBTQ community, or that, he doesn't talk enough about women, is entirely false, because you're basing it on symbolism. You're basing it on platitudes. And there are two important things to note here. Sanders has a 7-point surge above Biden and Warren, and they have started declining, which means that the more people know about them, the less they like them. And number two, Sanders has the largest support by non-whites, destroying the Bernie bro myth yet again.
Yeah,
yep. Yeah. And also, Sanders is leading among Democratic leaning independents. If you go through the link, it's going to show you this entire poll. But this poll in and of itself is skewed more to Democrats, meaning he's likely leading by an actually larger margin among independents. And I suspect the only other person that's leading in that is Tulsi Gabbard, because she's the one that has a lot of independents voting for her, non-registered NPP and some Republican votes. So,
well, the whole thing is coming up is that, listen, two things I want to point out. Number one, I was looking for somebody on the chat today that was on the Facebook chat. He's not there today, who was claiming that Fiorella was just talking identity politics, which she's not. She's actually just debating against the narrative that the mainstream media puts out there. We're not bringing this up because we want to talk about these issues, because we don't like talking about identity politics. However, the mainstream media is obsessed with it.
Yeah.
They can't get away with it. So we have to beat them back with their own narrative. That's number one. Number two, the same type of smears that the mainstream media is using, and I want to get to this TYT over here.
TMZ.
This TMZ TYT. Sorry. Are they getting the same?
Real quick, I just want to say, the fact that he's leading among non-white voters, I think, here's a non-white woman who supported Bernie,
Yeah.
Cardi B. She's got 58 million followers. Ariana Grande, she's got 172 million followers, and they both endorse Bernie. So there you go.
I also wanted to say that the polls, too, are a little fugazi. So we got to see what happens in Iowa and New Hampshire when this happens out. Because, as we know, politics has become more pop culture-ish.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's a lot more of us out there right now, a lot of more mice squeaking. So we're going to see who gets out there to these polls and votes. The people that they're connected to on these polls are old school, friggin' Democrat.
That's why I think it benefits Bernie and Tulsi and Yang and those people that are seen a little bit different and more outsiders. I think that's what is going to benefit them. I think those polls are actually not as strong as the reality is. However, we also have to worry about being in an echo chamber. So I said TMZ, but it's not TMZ.
TYT.
It's not
Daily
TMZ.
Beast.
It's Daily Beast. But I said they were acting like TMZ. Because their news coverage is disgusting. Let's look at what they actually said, because they basically try to say that Bernie Sanders is a racist.
As Sanders floats at the top of the polls, previous unreported statements from the 1970s where he compared predominantly white workers in his home state of Vermont to black slaves may put his past and judgment into question.
Okay, so
that is disgusting.
Let's actually read what they're saying he said, because what he said is actually makes a lot of sense.
Click up top.
And it doesn't, and it's not a big. It's literally like he's a democratic socialist, and this is how you know. Let's see. He said, basically today, Vermont workers remain slaves in many, many ways. Sanders said in another interview in 1977, and then in one 1976 conversation, Sanders told a local newspaper that the sale of a privately held mining company by its founders harkened back to the days of slavery when black people were sold to different owners without their consent, and compared the service economy to cattle slavery. So the problem, he also said, the problem comes when we end up with an entire state of people trained to wait on other people. So here Bernie Sanders is discussing how basically the elites, these people in power with these companies, in this case a mining company, was treating their workers so lowly that he's like, it's basically slavery. And if you know anything about mining companies, a lot of people ended up either dead or with injuries or health concerns. Same thing with the coal companies of the day. West Virginia is a huge a testament to that. But he's basically just saying, hey, you know, when you treat workers in this way, you're basically treating them like slaves. Right now, I will venture to say that many people of the working class are slaves to this economy.
Yeah.
And that should that should be said. It is true. Yeah. Is it the same exact thing? Is he saying it's the same exact thing as being a black slave in a plantation? No, but he is saying in one form or another, when we don't have the freedom, economic freedom to go and go to a hospital, use an ambulance, when we have to use an Uber to get to the hospital because we can't afford an ambulance, you know, when we can't pay our rent, when we don't have enough money, when our job, we're working 40 hours a week and we still don't have enough money, when we don't have the freedom to work and do the things we want to do because we have to work a job so we can get some sort of insurance so we can make ends meet. That's not free. You're not free when your civil liberties are under attack, when you can't post something on Facebook or YouTube without it getting demonetized. All these things, you're not free. And that is what he's saying. That has always been Bernie's message. It's class warfare that he's talking about.
Remember the State of the Union when Bernie said, it's not a hot economy, or you're not free. He would talk about these things. We're chained to debt. We're forced to get out and go work. And when I can't remember the number, fam. It's a ridiculous amount of people that go bankrupt. The number one cause because they can't pay for their own health care. That ain't free.
No,
you're a slave to pay for that
right
stuff. Otherwise, you're on the streets. So I know it's we should never compare it to what was going on, you know, the actual brutal beatness and everything that happened in the slave era. But you're not free is what he's trying to say. You know what I'm saying? You got to get up and you got to be chained to what you have to pay.
And let's not forget, you can't collect your own rainwater. You can't do so many things that, you know, like speaking of libertarians, you know, these people that don't want government interfering in them. You know, there's still a question if a woman can have an abortion or not. I mean, that's still being put into question. Are you really free if you can't explore your consciousness by using psilocybin, by ingesting drugs? Are you really free? The government is telling you what you cannot. You're not free. And so Bernie's whole case about this, he's relating it to the workers movement, the workers' rights. He's always been focused on the economic concerns of the people, indicating that making them in a way slaves to a system that is not working for them. So he honestly didn't say anything wrong whatsoever. Johnny, do you have an opinion on that?
Comparing the workers to the slaves?
Well, he's comparing it to a form of slavery.
I get what Pasta was saying, where it was like, it's like you're not free, right? But it could have been. I can see why they mistook it for what it is.
Well,
they blew it up for sure.
Well, I can see why they can, because if you're going to be focused on the identity, again, the identity politics of, he mentioned the word black slaves, so now that means that he's just dismissing.
To be safe, he should have said, it's he should have said with a disclaimer, like, obviously, slavery.
But we don't even know the whole thing he said because they take like snippets from it, and so they're putting their own interpretation into it and spinning it in a way that is going to be construed by that. And I think Bernie's never been an identity politics guy, and this campaign he's been more focused on it because of the previous criticisms before, which I mean, I get why he did it. I'm not going to criticize him for it. I get why he did it. It's one of the things that bothers me this time around. Yeah. But I get why he has to do it, because even when he does all of this, even when he starts talking about, race more, this happens.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, they just use his words and they try to smear it against him. They twist and turn. The Bakari sellers who said this beautiful, this disgusting thing about Bernie Sanders not being able to win the South because he won't be able to win by black votes. Another sellout, Bakari sellers.
Everybody under 35, that Black Americans under 35 support Bernie Sanders overwhelmingly.
That's it. Super chat contribution from Judas Priest. I love that name, that Judas Priest. As it is always appreciated on the couch. It's the first one, fam. I got to get the... just got here, so 25 minutes behind live. Just saw C-SPAN will give 90 minutes of Tulsi on tonight at 6 p.m. Thanks for the great work. Thank you, Judas Priest. Hanging on over at the MCSC network. We got a lot of people on the Facebook, including Maria Estrada, who will be in studio next Tuesday to talk to the CONVO Couch about her run.
Kicking ass and taking names.
That's right. When she's using the word cojones, it's really good too as well.
She's a chingona.
Gloria Jones, thank you for the super chat contribution. That is always appreciated on the couch. She says they hate us because they ain't us.
I agree, Glory.
I love Glory,
Glory,
man.
you're the best.
You are the best, Glory. You are the best. Okay, so let's get on to this next topic. We have a guest coming on in here. We're not going to talk long about this, but I just want to put my opinion out there. Johnny, we got anything else? Okay, so let's talk about the trade analogy because Tulsi wasn't on stage. She didn't get to make a statement about her vote on the trade deals. If anybody has a video in one of her town halls, because shortly somebody will catch up and ask her that question, and she can answer why she did. But let me put up my trade analogy, and this is just my opinion.
Yeah,
Johnny, I kind of made a cursive so we can put it on the screen in the folder, and I can read along.
Possible will give his opinion, and I'll give mine because we disagree here. So
all right, so. Hold on a second. My analogy on the trade is such. Okay. There are nuances to these trade deals. Basically, Trump played chicken with the Chinese and he lost. However, he held the American farmers hostage. So even though these trade deals don't address climate change at all, I don't hold it against Warren and Tulsi and others who voted for these incremental bills. If, in fact, the trade war continues and it would hit another round of sanctions and tariffs against our American farmers, including and especially small farms, would have really suffered. And being that Republicans hold both the Senate and the White House, the chances of getting a good trade deal that would address multiple issues of workers' rights and climate change, it's slim to none that they would have gotten it. I don't hold anybody, God bless you, in contempt for their vote here. So basically what I'm trying to say, fam, I think that the Democrats they played it wrong. But what I'm trying to say is that Donald Trump just started a trade war out of the blue. This was the whole nationalist versus globalist. And when it came to Donald Trump, on the morning he was elected, after he beat Hillary Clinton, there were two areas I thought that he could do decent in. Number one, I thought he was going to be an anti-interventionist. Wrong there. Laugh about that one because he always mocked about Obama's wars and these stupid wars. Well, he just continued the same war. The second part, and I paid a lot of attention to it, was his trade policies. It seemed like he had a knowledge of trade that the other presidents before him didn't understand. Yeah. And he had made this decision to go through mercantilism. Max Kaiser talks about it. He calls it neo-mercantilism because the tactics for what he's trying to do is he's trying to raise the value of our products that are being exported out and devalue the products that are coming in from China by way of tariffs and trade. He tried it. It didn't work. And he got his ass handed to him. Now, here's the thing, the reason why I'm saying I'm not holding it against Elizabeth Warren, Tulsi Gabbard for voting for this, because he started this trade policy out of the blue. It kept on really hurting the farmers of America, especially the small farmers. If another round of tariffs came in, it would have really decimated them. So even though this was, and this had very incrementalism additions.
Yeah.
It had a little additions. Like, in other words, Donald Trump got the Chinese to agree that they would buy a certain X amount of products from the United States. I don't think they'll ever honor that, to be honest with you. But he made them agree to that. And I think there was a couple of the laws I was reading that were in place which took away some protections from the corporations. However, it didn't address the workers' rights, it didn't address climate change, and it also allows these American companies to just pick up and leave without any repercussions. Mm-hmm. So it's not the best bill, but I think it was something that needed to be signed into play to get us where we're at, because I couldn't stand seeing the American farmers be held hostage. Go ahead.
And I mean, I just disagree. I agree with you that it's better than NAFTA.
Yeah.
But I disagree that giving in was the right answer, because I think if all of them had been unified and actually pushed for something better. The problem when you pass a bill that's not taking into consideration climate change. By the way, this bill is opposed by the Sunrise Movement and a multitude of environmental organizations. The entire squad voted against it. Like, Bernie voted against it. He talked about it during the debate, and he basically said that it's not good enough. It doesn't take into account climate change. And when you don't do that, when it's not even on the table and you're already giving in, you're pretty much telling them, like, hey, like, that's fine. You guys continue your status quo. And yes, I understand the immediate concerns of the farmers, but that's not necessarily a reason to give in when when climate change itself is the cause of a lot of these situations right now. And if you're going to put a plan on the table that doesn't address these issues, what are you doing? Yeah. And it's so much harder to remove something that's already been passed. Once it's passed, it's so much harder because people become, it goes to the back of the line for as far as like the sense of urgency. And I'm not for it. I disagree with Tulsi and Warren here. I 100% back Bernie on voting no in this. I feel like that was the right move, even if you're right about Donald Trump pretty much, putting in these tariffs. So,
it would be a great thing if they are really working together, or she's in the cabinet, because this is something they can play and stuff. If a lot of farmers would be mad at Bernie Sanders for doing what he did, saying you have to address our needs too.
Some unions support it. The Teamsters support it, but I'm not a fan of the Teamsters union anyway. But
Kamala Harris and who else? What's his Chuck Schumer. They freaking voted against this too. And Schumer voted for the first NAFTA bill. So, I mean, it's like, it just shows you whatnot. It's like, this is better than the last bill that was there. But realistically, when you have a Republican in the White House, a Republican Senate, we're not going to get a juicy bill anyways. That's real. They're never going to address our climate issues anyways when it comes to this. So I understand, I understand. You got to hold the friggin' line. And I'm glad all those people who voted no against it. But in Tulsi's situation, and even Elizabeth Warren, she could say, listen, hey man, I'm for climate change, but I just didn't want to hold the American farmers hostage here because they were the ones who were going to pay the price. So with the American family members would pay the price because they're going to have to pay higher prices on all because the trade war really didn't even hit the everyday products that hit us every day that we buy. That was the next phase coming in. It was going to start affecting us when we go to the supermarket and we start buying things. But I think moving forward, this is the way the Democrats should have played the situation, and they're not doing it, fam. And I said this weeks ago. The Democrats are not taking an opportunity here to beat fucking Donald Trump over the head, okay? The Democrats should have stated that the American people are the ones who got screwed by the great negotiator. The art of the deal fell short, and Donald Trump held our farmers hostages for over a year and change only to get crumbs for the hard suffering that they went through during these trade wars, and both sides. The Bernie Sanders could address and say, listen, I care about my farmers, but this is what he got. This is you pulled a trade war with China and they just waited your ass out, and they knew what they were doing when they directed their trades. They directed it right at our farmers, right at our soybeans, right at our fruits. They knew what they were doing and they beat him up, and nobody's calling out. Instead, he's going to get to go out and parade like he did a great thing.
Right.
Like, I put the Chinese in place. I've been telling you, China, China, China. He went from here to here in his bills. He got that.
Yeah,
Nothing.
And let me point out too that this trade deal is supported by some unions who are pro-labor unions that are involved in a lot of the oil industry and a lot of the just pro-labor, because again, what Paz is talking about, the farmers and the workers. However, again, that's the never-ending battle. The environmental proportion, the environmental groups versus the labor groups, and it shouldn't be that way. They should not be pitted against the other.
In California, right?
Exactly. In order to move forward and stop pitting them against the other, we need to support trade deals that include climate change, create new. This is why we need a Green New Deal, new jobs in the green economy, in the sector of that, in order for this to be taken into account. And if you don't stand against that, it's not going to happen. So I disagree. I feel like we should have stood our ground, but I agree that the Democrats should have been more had something better up their sleeves.
Listen, if they were really, really for climate change,
Are you really?
If they were really for climate change, they would have got together, formed a bond, all of them, and say we're not moving on this unless we get some type of provision when it comes to climate control.
Right.
Something, but they're not willing to do that. So all these people who did that, they're on record for doing that. Tulsi and Elizabeth, they're going to have to explain their vote after. And once again, like I said, I'm not holding them in contempt. It got a little momentum moving forward. And once again, my biggest concern is that the farmers of this country, the small farmers we're talking about, the ones who would sell their apples or their pears inside these niche items, okay? These Meyer lemons, they would sell them inside the States. Once these tariffs came out, all these big agricultural companies, they couldn't send their stuff to China. What did they do? They overflooded the American market and put these people behind the 8 ball. We're talking small businesses that really got hurt with these trade wars. Donald Trump tried to provide some support when he gave them when he gave them money, he gave them funding. What do you call that? Last year he did it. He gave them what is it? I forgot the word. Well, he gave a bunch of farmers money to compensate for their loss for the trade war, and that's what happened. Judas Priest says, just found out I'm watching on the MCSC network. Tell Nico he owes y'all $10. Nico, you owe us all $10. $10. Send it on over. Thank you, Judas Priest. We love you. And we got one last topic because we have a guest coming in here. Biden goes crazy when questioned over Bernie.
Yeah, this is just a short little, it's just really funny.
This is great.
Well, yesterday you said you accepted Bernie's apology, and now you're attacking him. Why are you doing that? Why wasn't his apology enough, Mr. Vice President?
Right this way,
Why attack Sanders? Why? You're getting nervous, man.
I was telling the truth about Social Security.
Which you weren't.
Thank you guys. We gotta
Biden's just hilarious. He just makes me laugh. Malarkey. Social Security. Yeah. Biden voted to cut Social Security 3 times, by the way. That's on his record.
Don't believe our words, believe his words.
Yeah. Exactly. His words are out there for everybody to see. I mean, I think that clip has millions of views already. The one Bernie's campaign put out. So, sorry, Joe.
Terry B says, pasta is good. He's good comic relief. Fee can get a little intense. Okay. Thank you guys so much for watching. Listen, we're going to get on out of here. Johnny, you have anything to follow up with before we get to our next guest? So we're going to be back in just about 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes around there. Yep. We're going to have another guest in for Candidate Month. We're almost through this, guys. Before we hit the road, if you can help out, we still have a GoFundMe. Somebody left, I think, $10 before we just started. It was really cool.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, there it is. Hey, show that up over there. Oh, somebody else just put another $5 in there.
Thank you, guys. We love you.
Sarah DeVille put $10 in. Thank you so much.
Let's go over some of their names.
Look at this anonymous person. I love this guy. Who is this anonymous guy? Zachary Gavassos. Thank you, Zach. Zach Attack. It's the good Zach, not the bad Zach.
Zach.
Yeah, which I'm about to respond to Zach's stupid-ass text.
Zach from Orange County. What the hell are you doing? Okay. Bam, you're not allowed back here.
But
I'm drinking your tequila.
Tulsi. She's anti-gay and comes from a deep-rooted racist family.
We're calling you out,
fucking
Zach.
knows that. Zach, where the fuck did you get this information from? Who are you listening to? You're just picking to choose the information to believe because you're with that little Orange County neo-progressive group.
So real quick, we're going to have guests. The next guest is running for city council in which district? Is it in Fullerton?
He's in Fullerton. He's running for city council,
California.
Oh, that's Orange County.
Yes,
the next guest after this is a fucking amazing guest.
Rodolfo.
The shit he was at the anti-war protest. We're gonna explain it, but
he's a very, very intelligent
Rodolfo,
young person.
I donated to his campaign in the middle of the interview that I was doing with Tina, so that should explain to you. He's like right there with like Tulsi and Shahid. Well, Shahid, I put him above Shahid now.
Wow.
Just so you guys know, I put him above Shahid.
But he's running as a Green.
He's running as a Green, but I think he can still make it.
Really?
Yep.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
We met some great candidates so far. I mean, listen, Rachel Rossi's a great candidate too as well. I thought she was awesome. Did you like Lauren Ashcraft in New York and stuff? You know,
I think she's got a shot.
Yeah.
There are people that I think are wonderful, but they don't have a shot. I feel like she has a shot. I feel like
she's got the
Jason Call has a shot. Who else did we interview? Shahid.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. We'll be back in a little bit with Jose Trinidad Castaneda. My name is Pasta Jardula.
I'm Fiorella.
And that's Johnny Sue on those ones and twos.